We live in a world that seems to demand one thing above all else: to be seen. It's a world built on sharing, broadcasting, and turning the small details of our lives into public events. Our phones are in our hands. The camera is always on, and the platforms are always waiting, hungry for more. We document our meals, our workouts, our relationships, our wins, and our losses. It's become a modern ritual. To experience something is to capture it, and to capture it is to share it. The digital town square is loud, crowded, and never, ever stops. But what about the quiet ones? What about the people at the edges of the square, watching, listening, but never saying a word? They're the silent observers, the social media lurkers, the huge, invisible audience that consumes but doesn't contribute. They're the friends who watch your stories but never post their own. The followers who read every tweet but whose own profiles are empty. According to a long-standing principle of internet culture, known as the 99-1 rule, they are the vast majority of people online. A silent 90% in a world that feels like it's run by a very vocal 1%. Society has a quick label for these people. They're shy, insecure, anxious, or antisocial. They're the digital wallflowers, too afraid or too uninteresting to join the party. But this assumption, like a lot of the noise online, is pretty shallow. It misses a much deeper and more complex psychological story. Have you ever captured a perfect moment, a beautiful sunset, a real laugh with someone you love, the quiet joy of finishing a book, and you opened Instagram, ready to post? And then, you just closed the app? You put the phone down, not because you forgot, but because of a deep gut feeling that you needed to protect that moment. If you have, you're not alone. We're told to share our lives, to perform, to post. But what about those who decide not to? Are they just anxious and insecure, hiding from the world? Or are they the truly secure ones who've found a quiet power the rest of us are chasing with every like and share? The answer isn't simple, and it reveals a fascinating split in how we live today, a deep divide between two different ways of being. This is the psychology of the silent observer. It's a story about fear, but it's also a story about an unexpected and powerful kind of strength. First, let's tear down the biggest and most damaging myth, that not posting is an automatic sign of some kind of personal flaw. In a culture that treats visibility as value, we often mistake silence for emptiness. We're trained to think that a love that isn't posted is a life that isn't fully lived. The person who doesn't share their vacation photos must not have had a good time. The person who doesn't announce their new job must not be proud of it. The person who avoids the digital stage must have a crippling case of stage fright. This way of thinking comes directly from the logic of the platforms themselves. Social media is designed to be a theater. It has a stage, an audience, and a constant demand for a show. Likes, shares, and comments are the applause. In this setup, anyone who refuses to get on stage is seen as broken. They're the audience member who's too scared, too self-conscious, or just doesn't have anything interesting to perform. But that's a fundamentally flawed way to look at it. It's like judging an orange by the rules of an apple. It assumes that everyone wants to be on stage, and the only reason they wouldn't be is because they can't. This completely ignores the idea that for a lot of people, The goal isn't to be on stage at all. Their silence isn't a failed performance. It's a conscious choice not to perform. These individuals aren't necessarily insecure. In fact, many of them have a kind of security that's become incredibly rare. It's a security that doesn't need outside approval. Their self-worth isn't measured in a currency that a scrolling, anonymous crowd can give and then just as easily take away. They get a basic truth that the performance-based world of social media wants us to forget. A moment's value isn't decided by how many people see it. They see the digital world for what it often is: a curated highlight reel, a performance of happiness, a theatre of authenticity, where even the most raw and real moments are still framed, edited, and presented to an audience. The choice to stay silent, then, isn't about hiding in the shadows out of fear. For many, it's about stepping into the light of their own, uncurated reality. It's an act of taking their life back from the pressure of public consumption. They aren't hiding from the world. They're protecting their world from the demanding gaze of the public. This isn't insecurity. It's a quiet rebellion. It's a declaration that their life isn't a product, their memories aren't content, and their self-worth isn't up for debate. To really understand the silent observer, we have to look at the deep psychological strengths that drive their choice. This isn't just a simple preference. It's a whole orientation to the world, rooted in authenticity, self-ownership, and a real understanding of privacy. For these people, silence isn't an absence of something. It's the presence of something powerful. Social media has become a huge stage for what sociologist Erving Goffman famously called the presentation of self in everyday life. We're all actors, crafting a character, managing how people see us, and performing a version of ourselves we want the world to accept. But this performance has a cost. It creates something we could call authenticity fatigue. It's that deep, nagging exhaustion that comes from constantly keeping up a public-facing self. It's the pressure to be interesting, happy, successful, beautiful, and passionate about the right causes all the time. The silent observers are often the ones who feel this fatigue the most. They sense the gap between their complex, messy inner reality and the flat, polished version that's required for the digital stage. Posting feels like a chore, an act of translation where all the richness of real life gets lost. The performance feels fake, and that fakeness feels like a betrayal of who they really are. Even the performance of authenticity, the no-filter selfies and tearful confessions, has become its own brand. It's still a performance, just one wearing a costume of sincerity. People who don't post are often just opting out of this theatre. They aren't willing to shrink their complicated identity into a simple online brand. Their silence is a form of protection, a way of keeping their true self whole and not for sale. They get that once you start performing for an audience, the audience starts to shape who you are. The applause becomes addictive, and you start changing your act to get a bigger reaction. These individuals choose to step away from that cycle. Their refusal to post is a refusal to let their identity be co-written by an algorithm and the fleeting approval of strangers. It's a powerful act of self-preservation. One of the key traits of the strong silent observer is where their validation comes from. In psychology, there's a difference between an internal and an external locus of control. People with an external locus of control tend to feel that their lives are shaped by outside forces, luck, fate, or what other people think. They need external feedback to feel secure. Social media is a playground for the external locus of control. It offers a constant, measurable stream of validation: likes, followers, comments, shares. Every notification is a little hit of approval, a sign that you matter. On the other hand, people with a strong internal locus of control believe they are the main architects of their own lives. Their sense of worth comes from within. They are guided by their own values, their own standards, and their own achievements. For these people, the validation from social media is, at best, irrelevant, and at worst, a distraction. The silent observer with an internal locus of control doesn't need to post about their promotion, because their own pride in their hard work is enough. They don't need to post a picture of their happy relationship, because the quality of that relationship is felt between them and their partner, not confirmed by comments from acquaintances. Their happiness isn't performative, it's lived. This internal validation is a superpower. It frees them from the exhausting and often vicious cycle of chasing approval. They aren't immune to feeling good when they're praised, but their core sense of self doesn't rise and fall with it. This allows them to move through life with a quiet confidence and emotional stability that the roller coaster of online feedback can easily chip away at. Their silence on social media is a reflection of this inner security. It's the quiet hum of a well-anchored soul. A subtle but profound shift happens when we share a moment. The idea of psychological ownership says that we feel a deep personal connection to things we see as ours. This doesn't just apply to objects, but to our experiences, our memories, and our stories. When we share a moment online, we're giving up a little piece of our ownership over it. A private memory is a sanctuary. It's a space in your mind that is yours and yours alone, filled with personal context, emotion, and details that can never be fully captured in a photo or a caption. When you post it, that memory is transformed. It becomes a public asset, subject to interpretation, judgment, and the indifference of others. The special feeling of that moment can get watered down by its public display. The perfect sunset, once a source of personal awe, becomes just another picture in a feed, scrolled past in less than a second. The intimate moment with a partner is now just more content for social comparison. Many silent observers have a natural, protective instinct for their own experiences. They understand that privacy isn't about hiding something bad. It's about protecting something precious. By not posting, they're keeping their memories sacred. They are holding on to the full psychological ownership of their lives. These moments become the foundation of their inner world, building a rich and private well of meaning that isn't for sale, not for likes, and not for public consumption. In a world where privacy is becoming a luxury, these individuals treat it as a necessity. Their silence isn't an empty space. It's a walled garden, carefully tended and fiercely protected. While many silent observers operate from a place of strength, let's be honest, it's not always that simple. For many people, the silence isn't a powerful choice, but a shield made of fear. The digital world, for all its promise of connection, can also be a brutal and unforgiving place. The reasons for their silence are just as complex and psychologically real, but they come from a place of defense rather than quiet confidence. The fear of being judged is a basic human anxiety. Our brains are hardwired to be incredibly sensitive to social rejection. Social media takes this ancient fear and puts it on a massive global scale. It creates what some describe as a digital panopticon. A panopticon was a type of prison where a single guard could see all the prisoners, but the prisoners never knew if they were being watched. This uncertainty created a state of constant self-policing anxiety. This is exactly the feeling social media can create. When you post, you're not just sharing with close friends. You're potentially showing yourself to a huge, invisible audience of old classmates, distant relatives, future employers, and total strangers. Every word, every photo, every opinion can be screenshotted, taken out of context, and used against you. This creates immense pressure to be perfect, inoffensive, and flawless. This fear can lead to a spiral of silence, a theory that people are less likely to share their opinions if they think they're in the minority, because they're afraid of being isolated or attacked. On social media, where algorithms amplify popular opinions and critics can be vicious, this spiral is even stronger. Many silent observers are simply not willing to take that risk. The potential for a cruel comment, public ridicule, or a misunderstanding that blows up is enough to make them retreat completely. Their silence is a logical response to an environment that often feels hostile and unsafe. For another group of silent observers, the problem isn't just the fear of being judged by others, but the crippling weight of their own perfectionism. These are the people who will rewrite a caption 10 times, stress over which filter to use, and spend an hour picking the single best photo out of 50 nearly identical ones, only to delete the whole draft in frustration. This isn't just vanity, it's a kind of paralysis. The blank canvas of a new post can be terrifying for a perfectionist. The internet feels permanent. A post can feel like a final statement about who you are. The pressure to create the perfect post, one that's witty, beautiful, smart, and effortlessly cool, can be overwhelming. They see the curated perfection on their own feeds, and the gap between that polished ideal and their own messy life feels like a canyon they can't cross. This creates a vicious cycle. The more they consume the highlight reels of others, the higher their own standards get. They fall into a trap of social comparison, where their own life feels inadequate next to the curated lives of hundreds of other people. Posting their own ordinary moments feels like an invitation for judgment. So, they retreat. Lurking is safer. It allows them to stay connected without having to face the terrifying vulnerability of putting their own imperfect self out there. Their silence is the silence of an artist who is too afraid to make the first brush stroke. Not all silence is about preventing something bad from happening. For some, it's a scar. Many people who are quiet now weren't always. They used to post, share, and engage. And then, something happened. A single, painful experience can be enough to silence someone for years. It could have been a post that was met with total indifference. The digital version of telling a joke to a dead silent room. It might have been a vulnerable photo that received a cruel body-shaming comment. It could have been a political opinion that led to an online dog pile where friends and strangers alike turned on them. This kind of experience is a form of digital trauma. The pain of public humiliation or rejection isn't fake. It's a real psychological wound. After that, the entire social media world can feel like a minefield. Every potential post is weighed against the memory of that past hurt. The brain, trying to protect itself, develops a strong aversion to repeating the behavior that led to the pain. And even without one big traumatic event, the sheer volume of social interaction online can lead to serious social fatigue. Constantly processing other people's emotions, navigating tricky social situations, and being bombarded with information is mentally draining. For introverts or highly sensitive people, this can be totally overwhelming. Lurking becomes a way to manage their energy. It allows them to dip a toe in the social water without having to dive into the exhausting currents of active participation. Their silence isn't born from an active fear, but from a deep, weary exhaustion. It's the silence of someone who's been burned and is now wisely keeping their distance from the fire. So we're left with this fascinating split. The silent observer might be a self-assured sage, acting from a place of deep inner strength, or they might be a wounded soldier, retreating to a place of psychological safety. They might be rejecting the performance, or they might be terrified of the stage. But here's the most interesting part. No matter the reason, both paths often lead to a similar outcome. Whether it comes from strength or from fear, not posting often results in a life that is, by default, more private and more present. By not constantly filtering their experiences through a camera, they are perhaps more fully living in them. By not searching for validation from a digital crowd, they are forced or freed to find it within themselves or in their immediate real-world connections. By stepping back from the overwhelming noise of the digital town square, they create space for deeper thought, richer hobbies, and more meaningful, uninterrupted time with the people who are actually in the room with them. The psychology of people who don't post on social media isn't just a simple story about anxiety or emptiness. It's a complex picture woven from independence, privacy, introspection, fear, perfectionism, and self-preservation. It is a quiet rebellion against a world that screams for our constant performance. The silent observer reminds us of a truth we're all in danger of forgetting. A life's worth isn't measured by its digital footprint. A person's value isn't determined by their visibility. Some of the richest, most meaningful lives are the ones lived quietly, offline, in the moments between the posts. Their silence isn't a void. In a world of deafening noise, it can be a profound statement. It is an alternative expression of a full life. So, which one are you? Do you find your silence comes from a place of strength, or is it more of a shield? There's no right or wrong answer, just your own story. We'd love to hear your perspective. What does your silence or your sharing mean to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, consider liking and subscribing for more deep dives into the psychology of our modern world.